Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a lot going on in this show. All right, folks, we're going to talk about America's team, and that is Jim Harbaugh's comment about Michigan. So we're going to be talking about that. Urban Meyer, is he shooting down rumors to Texas A&M? Then we're going to talk about Lane speaking about Texas A&M and the job and all of that good stuff. So this is pretty action-packed. There's going to be a lot going on in this one, but let's get into Jim Harbaugh. This is super interesting. And this is on College Transfer Portal's Twitter account. And listen to what Jim Harbaugh had to say about his Michigan Wolverines.
The perseverance, and then just the stalwartness of these guys. I mean, yeah, watching, I would have to say, everybody. It's got to be America's team. It's got to be America's team. America loves a team that.
This is fine. I'm okay with the events that are unfolding currently.
He's serious. This guy is living in La La Land. You cheated.
Hello?
You had a guy go out with 65 cohorts and go out and videotape all these games of opponents that you were going to play over the last 2.5 years. You're not America's team. Come on.
You got to be a man to play in my league.
Jeez. If you want to know how all this kind of stuff can happen under somebody's nose, if you're this delusional, I almost kind of believe him. Maybe he didn't know. Maybe he didn't want to know. Maybe he was Sergeant Schultz.
Oh, I see nothing. I was not here. I did not even get up this morning.
But that is some delusion right there. You're not America's team. Everybody in the country is pretty much rooting against you. Okay? So let's not get it twisted. And I'm sorry to the Michigan Wolverines fans. Look, I know what you're going through. I am a UT fan. We went through the same crap 3 years ago with Jeremy Pruitt. We got 25 scholarships taken from us, a $12 million fine, and worse than that, we had a cloud over us for 2 years. NCAA moves like molasses. And we gathered all the evidence for them and handed it to them. And they still moved like molasses because they were holding a bowl ban over our head, and we cooperated fully. So, we'll see how this plays out, but good grief. I never heard Jeremy Pruitt come out and say, Tennessee's America's team. And for the Michigan Wolverine fans, again, this is not your fault.
It's not your fault. I know. It's not your fault.
Exactly. Y'all are just fans. You love your team. I understand. And I know you get mad at me when I do these, but look, this is ridiculous. Come on. Let's see what else he's saying about this.
The odds, beats the adversity, overcomes what the naysayers and critics, so-called experts think. That's my favorite kind of team. And yeah, watching it from that view on the television, it was finally people get to see what I see every day, in these players and these coaches.
I kind of admire that. Sometimes you just need to live in that bubble and not worry about the outside noise. And look, this might work out for Michigan's favor. They might win a natty. Nothing will pull a team together than everybody being against them, because where else are you going to go? You might as well stick together. They got to win every game. That's just the way it is. If they lose a game to Ohio State, they're not getting in the playoff. There's no way. So that game is going to be epic, and I'm here for it. I can't wait to see that game. And if Michigan wins, good for them. But I tell you what, Ohio State's over there, and they cannot wait for this game. It's going to be brutal. And as far as Connor Stalions, we've not heard a peep out of him ever since he resigned or was let go. And I'm pretty confident it was a resignation. There was no way they were going to fire a guy that could, have all those skeletons in his closet. And I think he's probably working hard on his used vacuum cleaner business. For some reason, he has been selling used vacuum cleaners, and he's in business with the running back, Corum, who's their All-American RB. And I don't even think Corum knew, or at least he says he didn't know. And for some reason, Connor's just really into vacuum cleaners.
I said, don't disturb you. I'm cleaning my room.
So that story is just weird. Anyway, let's get into the next part of this video, and that is Urban Meyer and the rumors that he may be heading to Texas A&M. Well, he spoke to that, and he may very well have shot it down, but let's take a look at the news on it first. This was a story in Fan Nation by Kevin Borba. It says, Urban Meyer viewed as a potential candidate for Texas A&M job. He hasn't coached since 2018, at the college level anyway. He coached in the pros, obviously. Of course, he walked away from Florida. The SEC is a pressure cooker. That's one of the reasons I don't think Texas A&M is a good fit for him. I don't think he wants to go back into a situation with that kind of pressure because you're going to be expected to win at Texas A&M. In case you hadn't noticed, Jimbo's probably going to go 8-4 or would have gone 8-4 this year or something like that and get fired. So they're not interested in that. They want at least 10 wins every year, and they're paying a lot of money for that, and they have the players. So he probably could be successful, but why go back to that kind of pressure that obviously caused him health problems? He went to Ohio State because while there is pressure there, it's not insane pressure like there is at Florida. I don't know if Billy Napier makes it past this year. I can tell you if he finishes the year with 5 straight losses, he's working on 3, and he's got Florida State and Missouri left. I don't know that he survives that. You go 5-7, lose your last 5 games, and you've got recruits dropping like flies out of his commitment list. Already 3, 2 for sure, 1 about to. All 4 stars. So that's SEC's not for everybody. It's really for a young guy that can handle it. But it talks about, how he could be lured back with money and all that, and all the recruiting and all that good stuff down there at Texas A&M. And it talks about whether Meyer's management style would work there in this era. And look, things have changed. He is a disciplinarian, and honestly, those days are over in college football. It's become pro football. And in the NFL, you can't push players around mentally. You just can't do it, and you can't do that in college anymore. You've got to be a player's coach, and that's not Urban style. He's more of a drill sergeant, so I don't think he wants to come back to that, and he actually spoke to that, and I'm going to show you a video, and this one is by Allie Peak in Peek Into the Gators, and this was a great get on her part, and she is really doing well. She's got over 8,000 subscribers. Last time I talked to her, she had like 5 or 6, so she's doing great, and this is one of the reasons why when you get these kind of great interviews. So let's see what Allie had to say about this. So let's see what Urban had to say when he was directly asked by Allie.
Well, I sat down with Urban Meyer and I asked him about his interest in other jobs and his thoughts on how long a coach should get to turn around a program. It's pretty interesting. I hope you enjoy. Your name has been mentioned in connection to the Michigan State opening a week ago, and now that Texas A&M is going to be looking for a new head coach, your name's getting thrown around there. It's firing season, so there's going to be a lot of wishful thinking about you going around. Any chance anybody convinces you to come out of retirement?
No desire, Allie. I love what I'm doing, and that ship sailed, and I'm very grateful for, I think it was 37 years in the game, and loved it, and no desire.
Yep. So I just don't see him doing that. I don't see him going to Texas A&M. And again, I'll actually link that video in this. And Allie, I went on her show. She's a super nice lady, by the way. And you can check out the whole video if you like. A very interesting interview. But now let's talk about one Lane Kiffin. And he actually spoke to this job about Texas A&M and questions. And we're going to talk all about that. But let's get into this story. And this is on Football Scoop. And Football Scoop is the one that came out with the story about a possible link from Michigan, Connor Stallions, and the whole possible South Carolina or any other team that was facing teams that could be getting in the way of Michigan's college football playoff path in an effort to derail those paths. And Tennessee and Clemson, of course, were getting ready to play South Carolina. Well, who better to help out than South Carolina if you're Connor Stallions? So a person with direct knowledge actually said that they may very well have reached out to teams like that. But anyway, let's see what Lane has to say about the Texas A&M gig. And it talks about how Jimbo's #1 nemesis is now listed as a candidate for Jimbo's old job. Yeah, old Lane didn't appreciate Jimbo, and he called him out a bunch of times over all the money they were spending down there. And actually, Lane beat him 3 straight times and beat him 38-35 just recently on November 4th, which was the final straw for A.D. Ross Bjork and the A&M Board of Regents. So he may very well have caused Jimbo to lose his job. Then he's going to take his job. Good grief.
I drink your milkshake.
Yeah, he's definitely drinking his milkshake. Jeez. Says the loss triggered the board meeting last Thursday where the decision to end Jimbo's highly publicized, wildly expensive tenure where they had to pay him $77 million smacks. Lane went 3-0 against Jimbo. It says Lane was Jimbo's #1 public antagonist. And he was talking about money. He said basically like everybody's got different salary caps. I joked the other day, are they going to implement a luxury tax on Texas and Texas A&M? Lane joked last year. And then he talked about how they lost DJ Durkin to A&M. He said, we tried to keep him. We got outbid. Kind of a common theme with that program. Lane said on losing defensive coordinator. said when Lane asked if A&M would have to pay a luxury tax, Jimbo shot back, referring to him as others as clown acts. Oh, you know Lane wants that job now. Said when Ole Miss won at Kyle Field the night before Halloween, Lane said maybe Jimbo has a Joker outfit for me. Oh, he's such a Steve Spurrier 2.0. And then when Jimbo made his famous statement that everybody runs the exact same plays, it's just a matter of execution, which everybody was like, you got to be kidding me. Lane put in here, everybody runs the same plays, ? And then he put a hand on his face. It's only about the players executing, which I made fun of that. Good gosh, that was silly. And at Texas A&M, the AD said, here's the deal. You're either moving forward or you're stuck. We were stuck. That sounds a little bit Ricky Bobby-ish.
If you ain't first, you're last. You know what I'm talking about? That phrase.
And so I kind of used the analogy with somebody earlier. You know, when you're driving down the highway, I drive fast. I like 75, 80 miles per hour. Somebody in the left lane, and they're going 55, and they won't move over. We were that car going 55. I knew it was a Ricky Bobby reference. Something had to give. They had to get out of the way. And here it talks about an article that John Bryce wrote. And it says, Lane Kiffin, this is very important. Listen to this. Despite getting a lucrative new deal where he gets like $9 million a year, Kiffin's bottom line buyout to exit Oxford barely changed. He can buy out his deal for $4.5 million as opposed to $77 million. You think he's set up to walk out of there? 4.5? I guarantee you that's the lowest buyout of any coach out there that's got anything close to $9 million a year. And to get rid of him, they'd probably have to pay every single penny of it at Ole Miss if they'd have fired him. So he was in a very strong position with them and pretty much dictated his terms completely to Ole Miss. And they said, oh, absolutely, anything you want, sir, which was probably smart on their part. They've had a really good year.
Again.
Until all these rumors get out, and then it'll ruin their season just like it did last year. And Lane's not going to squash this. He won't. He will be very cryptic because he wants that gig. That's just my opinion based on everything he's ever done in life. And, of course, after he got beat by Georgia 52-17, he said, we have to recruit at a higher level. You're not going to do that at Ole Miss. I'm not blaming the players. We have to coach better. We have signed 1 5-star. Georgia signed 24. So he realizes it. And on Twitter, SEC Mike had this little clip of him.
I mean, that's a good question. We got to recruit at a higher level. And I'm not blaming people. We got to coach better. But, you know, at some point, whatever those stats are, we've signed 1 5-star, they've signed 24 or something. Those kind of do show up at some point. So we'd have to recruit it at a better level, do a better job recruiting.
Not the best public speaker in the world, but he's a darn good offensive coach. I will say that. Look, and you're successful at Ole Miss. You know what you're doing. It's just a fact. So, look, he's now been successful at a couple of different levels, and winning in the SEC at a school that primarily does not win is a good way to bounce up to another level because that's hard to do. It's hard to take 3 stars and beat 5 stars, but he's been able to do that on a decent level until he ran up against Georgia and Alabama. That's the 2 he can't handle. Look, very few can handle those 2 teams, and you're not going to do it with 3 stars. You're probably not going to do it with 4s. And when Kiffin was asked about it on Sunday, he said this. He said, I'm not going there again, which means no comment, which means I would absolutely take that job if the money's right because it's got everything he wants. The 5 stars, the 4 stars, tons of money, tons of NIL. He's got a great recruiting area there in Texas. He'll only have to compete with a couple of teams there, Texas. You know, there's a couple other teams over there that are good, but there's tons of great players in Texas, tons of them. So I think he'll end up at Texas A&M. I think that would be a very good move for them, somebody that has won in the SEC, which you know they're going to want. If they've got any sense at all, you are in the SEC. You might want to have somebody that's proven they can do it. You go out and get somebody out of another conference, it's not the same.
Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
That's right. You're not in Kansas anymore. When you come in the SEC, you'd better bring it, okay? That's why when you went in the ACC and you got Jimbo, who pretty much lived off a great quarterback for a couple of years and some crab legs, look, you better get somebody that knows what he's doing in this league. So I did want to cover all those things. Wanted to talk about Jim Harbaugh and his obvious delusion. Urban Meyer shooting down those rumors. And, of course, Connor Stallions. And here's one thing that's very important about the Michigan story. For those that don't think Connor Stallions was a great off-field analyst, they were 69-24 before he arrived, 21-1 after he was there. So they went from a 69 winning percentage to 91, which makes him the best off-field analyst ever in the history of football. Of course, the way he got there was kind of questionable, to say the least. So anyway, did want to cover all those stories. There's so much going on right now. There is a ton of news out there. And if you like to keep up with it, just hit that like button. And also right over here is my subscribe button on your right, my left, because I enjoy covering these types of things. And this will help you get my video and won't cost you a penny. And right over here is the most recent video YouTube thinks you'll enjoy. And we'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.